Hello, everyone. It is Brandon Lewis, the founder of the Tennessee Conservative, filling in for my good friend Michael Yaffee. We've been running the Tennessee Conservative for 5 years now. We've had a significant electoral and legislative impact, but it's all grassroots funded, right? We don't have any corporate sponsors. It's all just people like you that chip in $5, $10, $20, $100 a month to support us. And you can do that at TennesseeConservativeNews.com/support. Guys, it's interesting, I guess to me it is. I've been running campaigns and managing campaigns. I've even thought about getting back into it professionally at some point. And so I've watched a lot of cycles in Tennessee over the years. And the ones that tend to create the biggest shuffling are when Senate positions or governor positions change hands. And so we have a situation here where we may have multiple seats changing. And typically when those first few spots at the top get taken, people shuffle. Right? They all shuffle because they got to climb the ladder. They wait around for years and years, decades even sometimes, to get a chance to grab the brass ring and to move up. Of course, in these statewide executive seats, it's kind of interesting. Like, you can sit around and wait your turn, which is what most politicians do. They're conditioned, right, to get in the system and work their way up. Or you can just say, screw it. I'm going to run. I'm a business person. I've never been involved in politics. I'm a personality of some description. And then you just go after it, right? Typically inside legislative bodies, that doesn't work because it's all a bunch of insider training, like if you're going to try to move up to Speaker of the House or something. But on just good old-fashioned elections, right, we're just going to run for office and see who selects whom. You can see a lot of changing. And so a list of possible candidates for special election to replace now Mark Green is growing after his second decision to quit before his term ends in 2026. He said there's a private sector opportunity that's just too good to pass up. I know there has been some level of personal turmoil related to a divorce. I don't know. I don't keep up with all that gossipy stuff. I'm a legislation type person. So sometimes when people have personal life changes, they make career changes, which would make perfect sense. And in this case, the Tennessee Department of General Services Commissioner Matt Van Epps has announced he will seek the 7th Congressional District. I don't know anything about Matt, but typically speaking, I don't like to see bureaucrats become elected officials. I don't see them. They're never conservative. It's if they ever were, they got beat out of them a long time ago. Tennessee State Senator Bill Powers has announced that he might run. He is not very good, not very conservative. He's got lots of really bad votes. I would not want to see him replace him. However, we got Representative Jody Barrett, who's about as conservative as they come. I would love to see him in there. I think he'd do a good job. Brandon Ogles is pretty darn conservative. He is, I think, the cousin or the brother or the something of Andy Ogles, the congressman. I can't remember. And Power says he's seriously considering it. We've got Barrett, a Dixon Republican, said he's thinking about it. And Gino Bolso has even been thrown around as somebody who might run, and he's very conservative. So we've got a chance to see something happen with our congressional delegation now that Mark Green is retiring. But I would like to ask you, seriously, if anybody's got the courage and the tenacity to call in 267-1023, who do you want to see as governor? We've heard announcements of Marsha Blackburn. So, if you're out there listening, if you're a talk radio listener, do you think she's doing a good job? Do you think she would do a good job as governor? I'd be curious just to hear the feedback, 267-1023. Further, there was some noise making that Glenn Jacobs may run, but apparently he's bowing out and I think he tacitly endorsed, although, endorsements can be withdrawn. And then there are a few other names of folks. I know John Rose, who I met with John Rose up in Washington, D.C., and Marsha Blackburn to do, some conversations about the governor's race. So I'll be curious, who do you want to see in office in the governor's position? And, for Brandon here, I want to see somebody who's very conservative. And I keep going back to this because I was possibly traumatized by it in some kind of deep, abiding way, because everybody wants you to forget that COVID ever happened. But I want somebody that if something like that should happen again, right? If someone says, hey, we should depart from all norms in the United States and perhaps world history, and it's going to cause all these problems. Like, I want a governor who can resist hundreds of millions of dollars of propaganda. I want a governor who can resist arm twisting by Big Pharma and the medical community. I want a governor who, instead of putting illegal immigration centers in Chattanooga, I don't know if y'all remember that. We broke the story on that, where Governor Lee just put basically green-lighted this, and this has been a while. Many of you have forgotten about this. The old Tennessee Temple building. He green-lighted that thing, turning into an illegal immigration, I guess, holding camp for kids. It's just news to a lot of y'all, I'm quite sure. And kids were molested and lost there, and our reporting on it got it shut down, which is probably one of the big achievements. That's when I discovered. I said, okay, so you're telling me that I can drive around this place based upon a lead. I can show up and film around this location where kids are being molested and lost that Governor Lee put there. And then I can, by reporting on it, get the thing shut down. Well, that's pretty impressive for somebody who's never written an article or ran a news publication. And so that's when I really started seeing that we could have an impact as a publication. But I want somebody who is going to talk tough and then legislate tough, because I'm here to tell you, getting up in Nashville, they grind you down as a candidate, right? Or as an elected official. You get up there, and if you're a true blue conservative and you get elected, you get up there, and then the bureaucrats start working on you, and then the lobbyists start working on you, and then the special interests start working on you, and then leadership, who's already been bought by the lobbyists and the special interests, start working on you. And then all of a sudden, you go from being like a firebrand conservative to being a moderate conservative at best, and then in some cases being even not that good. So, who do you think could run for governor in the state of Tennessee and turn this trend around of, like, basically the corporate country club Republicans, the Haslams, the Lees? I mean, people that, even though we have a very red state and a very red electorate, the number one thing I have learned in Tennessee over the last 5 years, and it's an education I didn't expect to receive, is that our voters are very, very conservative, but most of our lawmakers are pretty moderate, and you see that in the legislation. We just had a legislative session, guys, where we could not get any good preventative illegal alien prevention legislation out. Not anything serious. We couldn't get out the bill that Bo Watson carried, which, hats off to him. There are some issues. We may end up getting to a story a little bit in the second hour. Bo doesn't have the perfect voting record, but the thing I do like about Bo is that he has the capacity, which few lawmakers do, to change course. Like, he started listening to his voters, which shocks me. Started listening, because it doesn't never happen. They rarely do this.
Hey, Brandon, we've got Tony on the line that wants to get in on
Is this Tony Sanders?
No, this is
different Tony.
Tony.
All right, Tony. Tony 2. How you doing, buddy? Brandon here. Glad you're on the show.
Hey, I just wanted your views on John Rhodes' voting record. He seems to have a good voting record, but he kind of came sort of as a dark horse. It just seemed kind of interesting to me. I know he's going to the Lincoln Day dinner, so, I might get to talk to him in person. But just thought that was interesting to get your opinion on him. And then also, what do you think of, like, property tax being a big issue for property tax reform being a big issue for the governor's race coming up? Since we had these crazy assessments lately from Marty Haynes.
Tony, who are you? What did you? I don't know. I can't just ask you your name online. I suppose that's not appropriate. But I appreciate you asking both those questions. Hang on here with me. Don't go anywhere. So John Rose. So I went and interviewed John Rose up in Washington, D.C. I was up there on a church trip with my family, and just like I'm down here on a daggum trip, Tony, what am I doing? I'm working. I need to quit this crap. But I'm down here working, and I interviewed him, and I will just give you my general impression. The first thing I will tell you is I don't know about his voting record in Congress. I'm focused on state records. If you said, oh, tell me about state rep this or that, I can tell you if they're conservative or not. And then even a lot of our elected officials in Hamilton County, I've got a good read on them. But the congressional votes, I don't know. But I will say this. When I interviewed him, I did not hear a lot of the answers that I wanted to hear. I heard basically the same political platitudes that I have heard from GOP politicians. It's almost like you could ask ChatGTP or Grok AI, give me a 5-minute speech from a Republican politician in Tennessee. And like that's what it was. There was nothing really there to me for the grassroots to say, I am going to do something different. These are the things I plan to do. So generally speaking, out of the gate, he seemed like he was a very nice, affable gentleman. I mean, nice as the day is long. But what I have found, Tony, is that if you have a politician that will not vocally and adamantly speak out, like a firebrand, then the way they govern is typically going to be weaker than they even talk. So if you're not talking real conservative, and if you don't have real conservative legislative ideas and you get in office, chances are you're going to be super moderate. I mean, that's what I have seen, and I would be willing to bet $10,000 that's what we would get. On the property tax thing, Tony, can you hang on with me through the break? Because that's something I'd like to talk about, and I bet people in Hamilton County would want to hear about it, given the fact that I just received a huge increase. Like I got something from the assessor's office about. We'll get into it. Me and you can have a conversation about this. I don't want to ruin it. Tony, you hang on with me during the break.
We both got
okay. Well, let's talk about it. If you can, hang on during the break. Let's take a break real quick here, and you're listening to 102.3. This is Brandon Lewis, poorly and haphazardly and mediocrely. Is that a word? Filling in for Michael Yaffee. We're going to break, guys. Talk Radio 102.3. Oh, it's Brandon Lewis here filling in for Michael Yaffee, if you're tuning in. We've got Tony on the line, and we're continuing our conversation about the ever-greedy, never enough money politicians and their desire to get into our pocketbooks by taxing something we've already paid for, our property, through property taxes. Tony, tell me a little bit about your situation and what your tax bill did, and maybe I'll share a little bit of my experience about what's going on with mine.
I'll try to be quick and then shut up and let you expound on it, because I'll probably set you up nicely for what you're about to say. But my tax assessment went up. It doubled. But I had recently purchased my house 2 years ago, and what they assessed my house was over $100,000 more than what I bought it for. They try to say I lived in a $500,000 home, which I don't. I live in Eastridge. And they don't have a lot of those around here. And they hit my whole neighborhood. And I really think I think the county overplayed their hand with this, because I've talked to my neighbors, and I have liberal neighbors and conservative neighbors, and they are all equally upset that their assessment got raised. And they don't buy this year it's not going to affect your taxes, because and also the thing that they're telling us is that, don't worry, the city is the one that sets the millage rate, because the way it's designed is they'll increase your assessment on speculative value of your property, on the speculative value, not the real market property. And then the city will set a millage rate, and then when you go to complain, they'll each point at the other. Like the county will say, well, we don't set your millage rate. Sorry, that's not us. And then the city will, well, we're not responsible for your assessment. That's not us. But both of them profit from the raised property taxes. And there has to be a limit to it. It's particularly annoying in Eastridge because it hasn't gone unnoticed that Marty Haynes is the husband of Esther Hilton Haynes, who is on the city council here in Eastridge. I mean, that's really not cool. But I looked into it, and Tennessee is one of 4 states in the union that has absolutely no guardrails to property tax. It's Tennessee, Hawaii, New Hampshire, and Vermont. And they could do whatever they want to property tax and get away with it, to pay for whatever pet projects they want. And the way I see it, if they're basing our property taxes on the speculative value of our homes, that's no different than Kamala Harris saying she wants to tax us on unrealized gain. It's just not congruent with the Republican platform. But that's all I got to say on the whole
congruency
thing.
with the Republican Party platform has nothing to do with having an R beside your name. I've learned that lesson repeatedly and almost without exception my entire life in politics. So, Tony, I'll tell you what I know. First off, not only did my property assessment go up ridiculously high. Well, the first thing is I don't like property taxes in general. I think it basically discourages responsible living. And particularly as you get older, I'm 45 years old, and I've got an eye toward retirement. And to think that forever and always I'm going to have to pay this bill, and it's going to forever and always go up because the people in Hamilton County in my opinion, have no concern or empathy for the taxpayer. Very few people in the county commission, mayor's office, I mean, it's not their money, right? Politicians tend to just spend, and there's always some kind of need in the community that is greater than the personal need of the taxpayer, which bothers me. On the reform issue, I think a governor who ran on a combination of property tax reform, illegal immigration reform, and a few things could really make a lot of headway, especially with senior citizens. On the reform of property taxes, Tony, Chris Todd has brought, and I think he withdrew it this year, but I think he's bringing it again. He's a state rep, and there's a corresponding Senate bill in Tennessee that would put some kind of cap, not on your property taxes necessarily, but on the increase. Meaning, if you look at what they try to do it here in Chattanooga, the city with me. I remember one of the first things I was involved in, Tony, was a property tax fight. No, it wasn't the first thing. It's the 4th or 5th thing, probably. A property tax fight when I owned my painting business. And I spent my personal money, as I often have, as long as I've lived here, fighting our Republicans and Democrats who want to essentially just grow government at the expense of the taxpayer without ever looking at cutting. It bothered me then, and it bothers me now, that there are no serious cost-cutting efforts going on while they want to raise our county and city taxes. So anyway, back to Chris Todd brought some legislation on capping the percentage of increase that a municipality or a county government could increase property taxes year over year. It doesn't put a top in, but I think it's like a minimum of 1%, 2%, or 3%. And Chris said, well, if we put a cap of 2 or 3% on there, they're probably just going to raise it every single year. So we're worried about that. But I think that kind of cap would be a good starting point. But it's it's a complicated issue. But you look at places like Nashville, and even in Red Bank, where they've raised people's property taxes by 10, 20, 30%. Folks living on fixed incomes, and even if you don't, it'd be nice to know that you could live in your house and afford it without thousands and thousands of dollars of property tax bill coming to you, especially in retirement over age 65. Do you run a business of any sort, Tony?
No, I'm a federal employee.
Okay, well, I run a small business, several small businesses, and they have this thing. This is even worse. It's called a personalty tax, and that's where they tax the physical objects that you have bought to run your business. And so the only thing that I have really is like a bunch of office junk, because I'm a consultant by trade. I don't make any money running the Tennessee Conservative. I consult business owners for a living. And my assessment went up from, they have a bottom line assessment of $300. Well, this year the assessment went up to $600. Nobody came out to the house. Nobody looked at anything. They just doubled the assessment randomly. and I guess I'm supposed to pay it. And so are you.